The silence across the outer border of human space had lasted for decades. Not a single ship, not a single signal, not even a whisper had come from Earth. Most in the galaxy believed humanity had fallen into silence forever. Some said they destroyed themselves in their last war. Others claimed they were sleeping giants, choosing not to speak. But deep inside the council chambers of the Galactic Border Command, alarms began to flash. Commander Thyrex of the Varkal Empire stood before a massive tactical display. Red lights blinked along the edge of the Forbiddens, lined the demarcation line. That line marked the border between the rest of the galaxy and what used to be known as human space. Is this confirmed? Thyrex asked, his voice sharp and proud. Yes, Commander, replied his second-in-command. One of our scout ships crossed the line. No response, no reaction, no satellites, nothing. The ship moved 20 parsecs in end. Sent a full scan report. Human systems are dark, dead. Thyrex narrowed his eyes. He had waited years for this. The fear of humanity had always frustrated him. Stories of their ancient strength had held back Varkal expansion for a century. Now, with no answer from Earth for decades, the fear was fading. Then we go further, he ordered. They are extinct. We prove it now. The other officers looked at each other in silence. Commander, one brave technician said, the Council Accord forbids entry into human space. Thyrex didn't turn to him. He kept his eyes on the map. I don't care about old accords. If they're dead, the line means nothing. If they're alive, he smirked. Then let's see if they're still worthy of fear. The orders went out. 5 Varkal scout ships entered human space. They moved slow, scanning everything. All they found were cold systems, dead stations, and broken moons. There were no signs of life. And yet, hours later, one of the ships disappeared. No explosion, no distress call. Just silence. The command center fell into chaos. We lost the Talrin. No trace, no wreckage. Thyrex stood tall. Check for cloaked mines. Maybe an asteroid impact. There's nothing there. It just vanished. But the fear in the room truly began when a transmission appeared. It came in on an ancient frequency, one not used since the last human war. The voice was calm, cold. Human, you have crossed the line. Return. You have 24 hours. The message repeated, then ended. The Varkal bridge froze. Thyrex stared at the screen, jaw tight. He didn't want to believe it. But the message had come from deep within the old Terran core Earth's ancient home. Send more ships, he said. His officers hesitated. I said send more. And so, 20 more Varkal vessels were sent across the line. Only 13 returned. 1 arrived empty, its crew gone without trace. Another floated back with melted systems and no power. The remaining ones had scrambled recordings, shadows of a ship moving faster than sensors could catch. A black shape, no lights, no signals, just a silent hunter. Then the second message came. This one wasn't on any known frequency. It broadcast into every system along the border. Every species, every ship. You have been warned. This is the last. And then, something impossible happened. A human ship appeared, but it didn't look like any known design. Its hull was made of some black alloy, smooth and silent. It moved like it was drifting, but every scan said it was controlled. Alive. The humans. Called it the Helios Warden. No crew was visible. No lights blinked, but it moved across the border like a ghost. Every Varkal ship near it froze. They tried to hail it. No response. Suddenly, one Varkal cruiser exploded without warning. The others turned and fled, but none were chased. The Helios Warden didn't attack again. It simply turned toward the nearest star system and continued on its path. In the Galactic Council, panic spread. We need to respond, shouted a Corali diplomat. This was an act of war. War, replied a Drakari elder. Do you remember the last time we called it war? Our worlds burned for 20 years. They haven't spoken to us in decades. They gave a warning. You crossed the line, you were told. A silence fell. No one wanted to admit it, but everyone knew. The humans were back, and they were not pleased. Far from the council chambers, in the depths of Varkal space, Commander Thyrex watched as emergency alerts came in. Worlds near the border were being scanned. Not attacked, not invaded, just scanned. He stared at the growing list of silent outposts. One after another, contact was lost. This is impossible, he muttered. Then, from behind him, his communication officer gasped. Sir? Earth has spoken again. What do you mean? It's a message. Directly to you. Thyrix turned. Confused. Play it. The screen blinked. And once again, that same cold human voice came through. You broke the accord. You knew the line. You were warned. This is the price of forgetting. Then the screen went dark. Moments later, the lights in the command center dimmed. Power failed. Backup systems sparked. Thyrix stood in the dark, heart pounding. Outside, in orbit above the Varkal homeworld, a shape appeared. The Helios Warden had arrived, but it didn't fire. It didn't send any signal. It just waited. The Council tried to respond. Messages were sent to Earth. Peace offers. Requests for talks. No. Reply. Only silence. And then a new transmission came. It was short, clear. There will be no discussion. You crossed the line. Step back or be erased. Across the galaxy, panic turned into terror. All races knew what came next if they didn't stop. Because now, even without speaking, even without firing a single shot, humanity had returned, and no one dared cross the line again. The Helios Warden drifted across the edge of Varkal space like a shadow. It had no visible engines, no signs of life, and yet it moved with purpose. The Varkal defense network couldn't track it. Scanners bounced off its hull like water. On glass, it didn't broadcast any ID, any flag, any signal. To the galaxy, it was a ghost, but to the older species. It was something far more terrifying. In a deep chamber beneath the capital moon of Icarus, an ancient being watched the movement on a private terminal. Grand Elder Uru of the Dracaria lines stared with unblinking yellow eyes as the ghost ship entered another system without resistance. The Warden, he whispered. They reactivated it. His assistant stepped forward, confused. But I thought the Warden was lost. A myth. Yoru didn't blink. It was never lost. It was hidden, buried, left to sleep. And now, he slowly exhaled. Humanity has chosen to wake it. Back in the Varkal fleet, the panic was growing. In every system the Helios Warden passed, communications blacked out. Defense satellites shut down. Patrol ships either vanished or returned in silence, sometimes without their crew. Admiral Vrel of the Eastern Armada stared at the recordings from the returning scouts. The ship's shape was always the same, black, long, sharp-edged. Its design was smooth, almost ancient, like it wasn't made but grown, and in every video, one detail stood out. The Warden never fired, not once, and yet destruction followed it like a shadow. What weapon is this? Vrel asked, voice shaking. None that we can detect, replied the science officer. We scanned the hull. There are no turrets, no energy signatures, no thermal buildup. It doesn't use shields either. We think... You think? The Admiral snapped. We think it's running on tech far beyond ours. The officer paused. Maybe beyond anyone's. Vrel turned to the window. Outside, thousands of Varkal. Ships were being moved into defensive positions. Fleets were being pulled from far sectors. But no one was sure they could stop one ship, because it didn't fight like a ship. It didn't behave like a weapon. It behaved like a decision. On a desert moon at the edge of Council space, a transmission arrived to a forgotten observatory. The observer, a young Paxori named Nira, opened the old channel. What she saw made her scales turn pale. The Helios Warden was entering neutral territory, right through the region where the first accord was signed between Earth and the Galactic Council. As she watched, her console beeped. A message came through Han. A protocol she had never seen before. It simply said, this space was built on silence. You broke it. Then the message erased itself. She didn't sleep that night. She didn't even blink. On the Varkal homeworld, Commander Thyrix watched as more of his forward posts vanished, one by one. No explosions, no battles. Just dash disappearances. His command staff had stopped speaking. Even the bravest warriors stared at their monitors in dread. What do we do? One asked. Thyrex didn't answer, because for the first time in his life, he didn't know. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A new alert flashed. Unknown ship approaching capital orbit. Thyrex rushed to the control deck. Show me. And there it was, high above the skies, the Helios Warden, still silent, still watching. Target it. Thyrex shouted. Everything we've got. Fire now. Hundreds of cannons, missiles, and torpedoes launched. Streams of energy lit up the sky. But when the smoke cleared, the Warden was untouched. Not a single scratch. Not a single flicker. It didn't move. It didn't fire. Then the crew saw something that made their hearts freeze. A shape, stepping out from the side of the ship. A humanoid figure. No helmet. No armor. Just a long coat and glowing eyes. The camera zoomed in. It was a human. Alone. Standing in space. No suit. No protection. The figure slowly raised one hand. And in that moment, the entire orbital grid shut down. Satellites spun out. Missiles died mid-air. Ships powered off like toys. Everything stopped. The figure said nothing. It didn't need to. In the council chambers, emergency meetings were held day and night. The ambassador of the Trivax coalition pounded the table. They are attacking our members. They haven't fired a single shot, replied the Rellan diplomat coldly. Ships are missing. Planets are silent. The Drukari held her. All across the galaxy, silence was becoming louder than war. The Helios Warden, the ship with no flag, no crew, and no emotion, kept moving, slowly, patiently, from system to system, never speaking, never firing. And yet, every fleet that came near it either disappeared or returned broken. Some ships simply lost power and floated back empty. Others returned with terrified crews, unable to explain what they saw. The most chilling report came from a scout who whispered 3 words before. Collapsing, the eyes burned. But the Warden didn't stop. In the deepest part of Council territory, powerful species tried to ignore the problem. They called it a Varkal mistake, a border conflict, a misunderstanding. They were wrong, because now messages were appearing. And not from the Warden, but from Earth. Encrypted signals began leaking across space. They weren't loud. They weren't even complete. They were buried in static, hidden in old human languages and long-lost military code. One message was caught by a listening post on a moon called Tesca 9, the AI in charge an ancient observer built to record. Cosmic Storms decoded it by accident. The message said, they broke the line. This time, we won't speak. This time, we remember. That message shook every scientist and elder who saw it, because Earth had always been the one who warned first, who gave enemies time to run, who offered peace before war, but not this time. This time, humanity was quiet. On the Varkal capital world, Thyrex paced the halls like a trapped beast. 7 more systems had gone dark. Not destroyed, just gone. Every device stopped working. Every AI erased. The Warden had passed through and taken everything. And the worst part? No one could explain how. No radiation, a scientist reported. No mass displacement. Not even gravitational waves. So how are they doing this? Thyrex growled. The scientist's face went pale. We think it's not technology. What else could it be? Intent. That one word made the entire command room go still. Intent. Not a weapon. Science. Just human will. Far away. In a hidden system only a few remembered, an old station came online. The last known Terran signal booster project Reclaim flickered. To life. It had not activated in 20,000 years. Deep inside it, a dormant AI known as Castile blinked awake. Command recognized, it said softly. Galactic Accord violated. Line breached. Stage 2. Authorized. The AI began transmitting. It didn't broadcast power or weapons. It broadcast truth. Across hundreds of worlds, memories of Earth's last war reawakened. Not just history files, but raw data, video logs, sensor feeds. Testimonies. Planets once allied with Earth-forgotten allies like the Vareni and the Baltar received the streams. They watched old footage of human warships blotting out stars, of enemies begging for mercy, of Earth choosing peace again and again until it was betrayed. Now, those allies stirred, and they whispered to each other. They warned us. We didn't listen. This is not revenge. This is justice. In a luxury palace on the council core world of Cytherus, a wealthy noble named Rel Shen hosted a party. He mocked the panic on the border. Human tricks, he laughed. They always act mysterious, but they're just soft under all that talk. Everyone laughed with him. Until the lights flickered. The music stopped. The entire sky above the palace went dark. And then the Helios Warden passed overhead. It didn't stop. It didn't attack. It just moved. And every guest at the party dropped their drink in silence. No one laughed again. In the council war chamber, panic finally broke through pride. We must send a fleet, shouted one admiral. To where? Asked a Trillian general. We don't even know if Earth has a capital anymore. A calm voice spoke from the shadows. They don't need one. It was Elder Yuru of the Dakari, the one who had lived through Earth's rise. He stepped forward and placed an old, cracked datapad on the table. Humanity never ruled with buildings. They ruled with presence. Their cities were symbols. Their ships were messengers. But their real weapon, he looked up, was memory. The room went silent. Then a new signal arrived from a derelict moon, long dead, a place that had once been used by Earth for training. The message was short. They have 30 systems. They never needed more. And now, they're taking them. Back, in the far reaches of space, a young alien named Lyra from the Zaire race stood aboard a trade vessel. Her people had never known war. They were merchants, not fighters. She watched the black ship on her screen, the Helios Warden. It moved past them, silent and still. Her father, the ship's captain, knelt on the floor and whispered, "Don't look into its eyes." Lyra didn't understand what he meant until the screen zoomed in, and for a second, she saw a face in the shadow of the ship. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cruel. It was disappointed. That night, she dreamed of Earth, of stars burning, of voices crying in a dozen languages. And in every dream, the same words echoed. We offered peace. You chose fear. All across the galaxy, species began to talk in secret. Races that had once ignored Earth, that had watched from afar as others tested them. They now reconsidered. No one dared to send a fleet anymore. No one crossed the line. Because now, the galaxy didn't fear Earth's ships. They feared their silence. The border was no longer just a line. It was a shadow one that moved, watched, and judged. No one could say where the Helios Warden would go next. No one could stop it. But everyone knew, if it appeared in your skies, something would be lost. The galaxy, powerful species began recalling their ships from the edge of human space. Trade routes changed overnight. Civilian flights were rerouted. Entire star systems were abandoned. But the Varkal Empire refused to back down. Admiral Vrel stood at the command bridge of the largest Varkal fleet ever assembled. 2,000 ships. Siege cruisers. Titan-class warforms. Dreadnoughts with enough power to crack moons. They had gathered at Sector 7 Car, just outside the old Terran-controlled systems. Let the humans come, Vrel growled. We will make the void burn. But deep inside, he remembered the whisper. The one had spread like poison among commanders. The stars blink. When Earth replies. 20 hours later, the Helios Warden arrived. No warnings. No signals. It drifted into the system like a shadow caught in starlight. The Varkal fleet locked on. Targets confirmed. The AI reported. Weapons armed. Wait, Vrel said. The Warden wasn't attacking. It just hovered there. Watching. Then, without a sound, every sensor screen flickered. One by one, all stars in the sky dimmed. At first, it was thought to be a solar flare. But then, even distant stars winked out. What's happening? Shouted a crew member. Unknown gravitational flux. No, it's not gravity, another. Whispered. It's single quotes S.them. Outside, in the cold dark, stars didn't blink. They were blocked by something massive, something moving. Thousands of black shapes emerged from the dark behind the warden. At first they looked like asteroids. But then the scanners caught their shape-sharp, angular, too fast, too quiet ships, human ships, all of them, silently waiting behind the warden. But they had no names, no markings, no flags. Only one symbol appeared on every hull, a broken chain. The chain Earth had once placed on itself, now shattered. Admiral Vrel screamed, "Fire! Fire everything!" The void lit up. Beams, missiles, plasma bursts. Every weapon fired at once. But nothing reached the human fleet. Every shot vanished just meters before impact, as if space itself folded. "Impossible," shouted the weapons officer. "It's not shields. It's not armor. It's..." Then came the sound, a low hum, not mechanical. It felt alive. Every Varkle ship heard it at the same time. The sound of the warden breathing. And then the stars came back. The ships vanished. Gone. No explosion. No impact. Just absence. Thousands of Varkle warships erased from reality. All that remained was Admiral Vrel's flagship drifting, powerless, surrounded by silence. On the main screen, a message appeared. "You chose war. You knew the cost. Tell them, Earth still remembers." Then, even Vrel's ship went dark, but he survived, left alive, drifting in a dead command chair, staring at the last blinking light, a Terran beacon left inside his brain. Back on Cytheris, the council chamber fell into chaos. How many ships? "Lost?" someone shouted. "Over 2,000, said a shaken official. "In under a minute." "Destroyed?" "No, removed." "From where?" "From everywhere." Elder Yoru, the oldest of the Drakari, stood slowly. "This is not war," he said. "This is memory taking form." The council fell silent. "They gave a chance," Yoru continued. "Twice, maybe more. We didn't listen. And now..." He looked at the blank screen where stars once shone. Now they are not trying to win. They are trying to teach. On a refugee ship near the Terran border, a young Korali boy watched the news. His mother covered his eyes, but he had already seen the image. The Terran symbol. A single eye. Open. Watching. He whispered, "Why do they hate us?" His mother shook her head. "They don't hate," she said quietly. "They warned." The Helios warden moved again, alone this time, into a system once held by Earth long ago. On the dusty world of Karsa Prime, ancient Terran ruins still stood, overgrown, forgotten. As the warden entered orbit, lights flickered on. Old cities lit up for the first time in 500 years. Not because the warden activated them, but because Earth was remembering. And with each memory came power. On the planet Saraxi, where the council once held its secret meetings, a signal was received. Not from a station, not from a satellite, but from the planet itself. The ground glowed with lines of code, forming one phrase in Terran Standard. "The accord is broken. The Watchers return. Choose your silence, or your end." No one could respond. No one dared. The stars had blinked, and the galaxy now knew Earth wasn't finished. Earth was watching, and the silence was over. The galaxy no longer pretended. What started as a border incident was now a clear message. Humanity was back, and they were not the same as before. The Helios warden had torn through the strongest fleet the Varkle Empire had ever created. Entire. Stars had blinked, systems had gone silent, and Earth still hadn't spoken a single word in person. But their silence said everything. Now, the council chambers stood nearly empty. Many members had vanished. Some had fled. Some had gone into hiding. And a few, those who remembered the old wars, had begun to speak again. The Drakari elders called it the time of return. The Vareni called it the reckoning of memory. And among the oldest races of all, the ones who had once stood beside Earth. When the galaxy burned, they called it the waking. In a dark system at the galaxy's edge, on a planet no one visited anymore, the Ketoran hives stirred. Their queen, almost 6,000 years old, had not spoken in centuries. Now she awoke, her eyes glowing pale gold. "The pact," she said softly. "The silence is broken. Earth moves." The younger drones looked at each other in fear. Do we answer them? She gave one nod. Earth walked alone for too long. We left them. Now we walk again. From the ground beneath her, a beacon lit up coated with ancient Terran signals. It pulsed once dot, then again dot, and then sent a single message through. Subspace, the K-Torrens stand beside you once more. It was the first ally to return, but it wouldn't be the last. On the cold water world of Lyrics 4, the Shalari songmasters gathered in crystal chambers. Their race spoke through harmonic vibration. Their ships were slow, their voices peaceful. But when Earth had once stood on the edge of extinction, it was the Shalari who had carried their wounded, the ones who had sung Earth's fallen to rest. Now they sang again, not of sorrow, but of return dot across their oceans. The deep currents carried an old song one that hadn't been heard in 3,000 years. The children of fire walk again. The sky will not hold them. The ground will not bind them. We remember the warmth. We remember the cost. Meanwhile, the Varkal Empire was collapsing from within. Admiral Vrel, once proud and fearless, now drifted in a medship, far from the front. He no longer spoke, no longer blinked. His mind had cracked after the Warden erased his fleet. Some say he saw something aboard that ship. Some say he heard a voice no one else heard. But when asked what he saw, he only repeated one phrase. We thought they were gone. We were wrong. Inside. The ruins of Earth's first off-world colony, Mars. Central something moved. The old facility had been buried under red dust for millennia. No one lived there anymore. Not even scavengers came. But now, deep in the core of the station, a heartbeat. Returned .1, 2, 3, and a light so dim, yet full of power blinked on. A voice, a soft female voice. Calm, sharp, system boot complete. Orbital defense grid, active. Reconnection to Solnet, complete. Protocol Omega status, green. Welcome back, humanity. The AI known as Seraph had returned, and she was only one of many. All across the galaxy. Ancient Earth-based A's long dormant came back online. Not to fight, not to attack, but to watch. To record, to remember what the galaxy would choose next. The council met again. This time, they didn't shout, they whispered, and most of those who sat in the chamber were not warriors. They were the few races who still remembered Earth's mercy and its wrath. We broke the accord, said the Grand Speaker of the Hrax Dominion. Warden was a warning, but the message was not just for the Varkal. It was for all of us. We didn't defend the line, said the sire of Neltarn. We stayed quiet when it was crossed. Now Earth is quiet, said Elder Yoru, and the silence feels louder than war. A motion was raised to send a message, not for peace, not for surrender, but for forgiveness. That night, a single transmission was sent across all known channels. No encryption, no trick, just words. We remember the Warden. We remember the silence. We remember the accord. And we ask this, is there still a path back? For hours, no answer came. Then, from a forgotten Terran satellite, orbiting an abandoned moon, a single phrase was, BROADCAST in return. It came in clear, steady. Not warm, cold, but final. Walk the path. Don't speak of it. Earth was not waiting anymore. The galaxy would not win. Earth's trust with words. It would have to earn it step by step, and every species now understood. The old ones had begun to speak again, but Earth had never stopped listening. The stars were quiet again, but not for long. Deep in the void between sectors, a strange silence settled over Patrol Grid 9. Ships sent into zone vanished. Communication relays blinked off one by one. Even emergency beacons died mid-scream. Something was hunting in the dark. Captain Rava of the Dreltari Exploratory Corps sat frozen as she listened to the last message from her forward scout ship. There's something out here. Not cloaked, not hidden. Just standing still. And it's watching us. Then silence. Not static, not interference. Just silence. That's when the fear returned. Not just to her, but across the systems. Because the last time someone spoke like that, it was during the Terran retaliation 2 centuries ago, When humans shattered the Varnock fleets and left burning moons in their wake, no one had seen a Terran ship in decades. No one wanted to, but now, something ancient was stirring again. On Yaltor Station, a League analyst named Bryn discovered a pattern. The disappearances weren't random. They followed an arc like fingers tracing the edge of a border. A line, the line. Bryn's pulse raced. The forbidden Terran line was never to be crossed. It wasn't official galactic law, but everyone obeyed it. Everyone feared it. And now, something was patrolling it. On the mining colony of Harness 3, a convoy of 6 freighters tried to sneak across that invisible border. They didn't even send a full report before their signals vanished. But 20 hours later, one ship returned burned, twisted, airlocks torn open. No crew left, just a single message burned into the hull. You know the line. Stay on your side. The footage spread like wildfire across the outer colonies. And then the council met. Desperation took hold. They needed to confirm. Was humanity truly back? Were they defending the line again? So they sent an emissary ship, diplomatic, peaceful, harmless. What returned was a black capsule with no signature. Inside, the emissary's badge, and a Terran command code not used in over 200 years. We warned you. And suddenly, even the most fearless empires fell silent. Pirates vanished from trade lanes. Raiders turned back without a fight. Smugglers refused jobs that even sniffed near the line, because the shadows were moving again. Silent, patient, angry. And, this time, humanity wasn't hiding. They were watching and waiting. The council chambers on Draken Prime had fallen silent. Even the wind outside the domes seemed afraid to howl. Reports from the battlefront were coming in bloody, horrifying, unbelievable. They had sent their best. Not one, not two, but 9 war champions. Each was a genetically modified warlord from a different race engineered in labs, trained in 1,000-year traditions of killing, and feared across entire star systems. These were beings who could shatter tanks with a roar, melt bunkers with a gesture, and crush rebellions just by landing on a planet. And yet, not one of them had returned. Only a single shattered drone had made it back. Its footage was corrupted, its memory core burned, but a few flickers of the battle had survived. The council watched. They saw a single human step onto the battlefield. Not in armor, not in a suit. Just a long coat, hands bare, face calm. And then, the screen went dark. The last few frames showed something no one was sure what. A blast? A blink of light? Some even whispered it looked like reality had bent. Whatever it was, the war champions were gone after that moment. The alien empires began whispering. The fearless Ravak's warlords, who knew no pain, who had fought living suns, refused to enter systems where humans had passed. The Joran mindbringers, who dominated, with thought alone, sent their mental probes toward the soul region and lost their minds instead. A silence grew around Earth, a ring of fear, wider than any wall, more powerful than any weapon. But still, the High Command didn't retreat. They couldn't. To do so would mean accepting that humans were not just strong, they were something else. Something the galaxy wasn't prepared for. So they formed Legion Protocol, a final strike force made of 12 elite dreadnoughts, 1,200 void-born Marines, and 2 planet killers. They would go not to fight, but to erase. To destroy the last ship where humans were seen. To blast the human signature from the void. To finish what the Broken Accord had started. But deep within that ship, still docked and quiet near a red dwarf, Star, the human who had ended the champions, was already awake. Not angry, not afraid, just waiting. And this time, he wasn't alone. The ship had spoken to him. Not in words, but through instinct. It had changed. Grown. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was something the galaxy didn't even have a word for. And as the dreadnoughts prepared to jump, that human smiled, because they hadn't learned yet. No. One dared cross the line with humanity, but they still thought they could. And now, they'd learn what happened to the fearless when they walked into the fire. No one dared to speak. The battlefield was silent now. Alien fleets drifted in pieces. Fires raged across ruined dreadnoughts. Shields flickered, dead. Engines cracked open. And above all, the human ship, the ISS final oath, hovered like a shadow of judgment over the smoldering remains. Admiral Karavos stood tall on the command deck, her face still marked with burned scars from the first battle. She didn't smile. There was nothing to smile about. The enemy had brought everything they had. They'd crossed the line humanity had drawn, and they had paid for it in blood and fire. The Uklon High Council called it the last strike, a final desperate move to humble Earth. Instead, their armada was erased in 13 minutes. The final oath didn't just fight, it changed. It unleashed weapons no alien had ever seen. Not even in legends. Some whispered it had awakened something older. Something buried deep in the ship's core. A last gift from Earth's vanished Golden Command. No one knew how it worked. Not even the crew. But when the accord was broken in Part 1, the ancient protocol had activated. Now, the galaxy understood why humans said, "There are no second warnings." In the remains of orbit, a single Uklon ship limped away. It sent a message across every known frequency. This is not war. This is a lesson. Do not test humanity again. And then, silence. On Virex 3, the warlord clans watched the footage. They had mocked Earth's silence for years. Called humans weak. Disconnected. Lost. Now, they shut down their war machines. They erased plans to attack the outer colonies. Fearful, they marked their star charts with new boundaries. Human zone do not enter. In the Galactic Senate, chaos spread. The chair of the Delcara Union, who had once said, "Human threats are empty," now begged for new treaties. The motion to investigate Earth was voted down. Instead, they created a new rule: no species shall cross into human space without consent. But Admiral Voss wasn't finished. She activated a final transmission, a memory recording. It played. Across all channels. It showed Earth centuries ago, during the first alien contact. Peaceful, friendly, reaching out with hope. That it showed what happened when those gestures were crushed. Colonies burned, families lost, children experimented on. The final image, Earth scarred but rebuilding, stronger, quiet, preparing, and one voice: we remember, we rebuild, and we return, cross the line again, and we won't stop at warnings. The galaxy learned something that day. Fearless species turned cautious. Warships changed their patrol routes. And every young alien child learned one simple lesson in school: never, ever test the patience of a human. Because the warning wasn't written in words anymore. It was written in fire. And space still burned with the memory of it. The end.